First, you're going to want to remove your air box and all your piping. Then take off your fan and loosen your belt with a T50 Torx. Then remove your power steering reservoir. It's two 13mm bolts on either side of the oil filter housing. Since you're setting it next to all this electrical stuff, you're going to want to put a microfiber towel or just any towel at all behind it to make sure it doesn't leak on anything. Before we start messing with the alternator, you're going to want to go to the trunk and unplug the battery so you do not shock yourself. For this battery, it's just one 13mm bolt. Get your socket on it, break it loose, and move it out of the way. Use a 12mm socket to disconnect the positive from the back, and then undo the piping down here to cool the alternator. Don't forget to undo the little electrical connector on here. It's this style of clip. I just used this to push up against that, and it snapped right off. There are two bolts on the alternator. There's one that is a pulley up here. Looks like that. The other one is at the bottom. As you can see, it is now hinging on it. They're both 16mm, so you shouldn't have a problem with that, but it's kind of up above the power steering pump. There's another one of these style clips down here on the oil filter housing itself. You're going to want to use another pick to get that off. If you trace this line down, it goes to this little fitting on the back of the oil filter housing. It's this style of bolt with two banjo washers on it. You're going to want to grab those and get new ones. Remove the two 13mm bolts connected to the oil filter housing and the power steering pump. Next, you're going to want to remove all 6 bolts. Remember which order you took them out in. That will be important when putting it back in. Now your oil filter housing should separate from the block. Go ahead and remove the old gasket. I like to just take a pick, poke it in, and pull the old gasket out. So how I did this is I took the longest screwdriver I had, the flathead, to remove this check valve, because mine's bad. It's very springy and wobbles, and and I might as well replace it while I'm in here in case it goes bad because it's plastic. I took my screwdriver and went boom and just kind of wiggled. Then I went to the other side and wiggled, and then it just pops right out. There you can see it. You don't damage any of the walls like I kind of started to over here, and you get it out with no damage. You damage the check valve nonetheless, but that's what the new one's for. I have the new one installed. All I did was lay a microfiber towel over the top to cushion it, and then use a nice rubber mallet and just tap over and over and over and over and over and over again, just very lightly, and it'll seat all the way down in. See, you can see how it kind of starts outlining it when you start hitting it, and then just keep doing that, and it'll seat entirely. And then don't forget your new gasket as well. Clean off the mating surface with a microfiber towel, and then go in with your scraper and be sure and get all the extra residue off. Get it in place and on the dowels, and I'm going to give it a couple nice little taps just to make sure it's kind of seating on there. Then you can start threading your bolts in. Then torque to 10 foot-pounds in a crisscross pattern. Then go back and do the same thing, but to 25 foot-pounds. Get your 2 power steering pump bolts put back in. This sensor back here, as well as the clip, reinstalled. Take your 19mm wrench, put it on this banjo bolt down here, and I looked it up online, it says 10 pound-feet of torque on this bolt. So I mean, you just want to get it snug, and that's really it. I am going to keep my eye on that for leaks. Then get the 2 bolts installed and secured on the alternator. I did the lower one first. It was very hard. I had to kind of wiggle the top of the alternator while pushing it down, while also holding the bolt in to make sure when it finally got there, it just went in. And then thread them both in nice and easy. You don't want to strip threads. Then do the top one second and just get them nice and snug. That's no more, no less. I do all the plumbing and the electrical equipment. The bottom hose should just clip on once you get it in place. Grab the smaller out of your 2 clips. This little finger should point back towards the wires. Slide that on there. Then slide your connector on. Push that clip down. Then it's secured in place. Then you're going to want to do the same thing with the alternator one. Put your clip on with the thumb facing the wire. There we go. All I had to do is install that clip on there and then push it on. Finally, you're going to want to put the positive for the battery onto the alternator. I believe it's a 10 mil. Just get this threaded on there. You do not want to strip this. Be very, very careful when tightening this. Just get it snug. That's what the shielding's there for. The shielding's there in case it falls off. It'll just sit in there. It's better to have it fall off than to strip the threads on this. Okay, you feel it grab, go about a half a turn, probably a quarter of a turn actually, then call it good. Like I said, no need to strip that out. Go ahead and tighten up the bolts on your power steering reservoir. Put a T50 Torx on a small breaker bar and release the tension from the tensioner pulley. Then you will be able to slide your belt right over the pulleys. Finally, reinstall your airbox and all of the plumbing along with it. And that is it. That is how you do an oil filter housing on a 1997 BMW 528i.